Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The Stoke's high. You're talking bikes, tech, nutrition, progression. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you?
Oh, Danny, I am doing so well. I am doing so well, man. It's been a great week.
Yes. The weather's been good here. The weather's been nice.
Yeah.
And we've been getting some rides in. Life is busy, but we are riding and just having a blast on mountain bikes. We're talking mountain bikes. So gratitude listeners for tuning in. And yeah, we're excited to get into it.
Yeah, man.
First, we'll do comments on Ride and Laugh podcast number 31, which was massive mountain bike park drops and making shapes in the air.
Okay.
That was talking about our second time at Mountain Creek and what a blast we had there and unlocked a lot of progression. And so we were sharing our story and also some of our lessons along with the listeners. So thanks for listening, everybody. And thanks for commenting in. So one of our listeners that always comments in is Aaron for Sale.
Yes.
And I was talking in that last pod, my gratitude was my downhill helmet had the D-ring that I was struggling with my hands and my gloves and I had the ratchet replacement. And we were also saying how those helmets don't fall off. You know, it's pretty snug.
Yeah.
And so Aaron said, I've been motocrossing and motorcycling my whole life. FYI, helmets do come off. So I just wanted to clarify, like, yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, there's a reason that they all have straps, and the downhill helmets and motorcycle helmets, which are, you know, going much faster, have the D-ring, which is much more robust.
Yeah.
And I'm putting something less robust on there, but it is still strapped on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the helmet is snug. And for what you and I are doing, Sage, we kind of feel like the downhill helmet I'm wearing is probably overkill. I mean, maybe not, because I broke my face and I blasted through a different helmet at a downhill park. But I just wanted to clarify. I thought that was a really good point by Aaron that, you know, if you feel like the D-ring is still the appropriate safety thing to have on there versus the kind of less secure ratchet replacement, then go for that. I went for the convenience, and I still think it's held on. I'm not really worried about my helmet falling off.
Yeah, that thing is pretty sturdy, Danny. I have, as you know, I have an electric scooter, and I bought a motorcycle helmet. And it has a ratchet. It does not have a D-ring. It has a ratchet just like yours. And it's really secure. Like that sucker is not coming off. So, and it's a DOT certified. It's all those things that you would look for in a motorcycle ready to helmet. So just wanted to add that.
Okay. Yeah. I feel good about the ratchet system, but we were kind of like saying, oh yeah, these things aren't falling off. And, you know, Aaron's point was like, no, they definitely fall off.
They do fall off. Yeah.
If you don't have it fit correctly or if it's not strapped on. So I thought that was a really good point. So thank you, Aaron, for that comment and for all of your comments. Much obliged. Josh at Slanted Ground, his comment really encompassed the day and one of the things that we love about mountain biking. He said, it's amazing how overcoming obstacles on the bike can add so much joy to your life for so many days later. Love it. Thanks for the pod. Man.
Yeah.
But isn't that true?
It's so true, man. We're floating on cloud nine for days on end. I said it before, but like, I can't believe where we're at. I can't believe what we're doing. It's just been such a great summer of progression. It really a whole year of progression since we started doing this pod. You know, I mean, everyone's kind of been growing with us, hopefully.
Yeah, we've had a lot of comments about people unlocking new things and trying new things, or you know, hopefully listening to intuition and only doing things when they're feeling it, and you know, and we're living that, and we have our ups and downs in those experiences where we're listening to intuition, where we're not listening to intuition, and what happens, you know. It's so mountain biking and life are just like they're so intertwined. It's such a beautiful challenge. Our sport is it can be so challenging, it can be so thrilling, it can be so rewarding, and not everybody has that. You know, a lot of people don't have something anywhere near that on the weekend. It's just awesome. Mountain biking is just awesome.
You know, we're probably going to get into more mountain biking is awesome later, but I also want to add, like,
we'll be getting into some mountain biking is awesome. That's our thing. Probably. Probably.
Who am I?
This is episode 33. What probably?
So true.
If you
So
love
true.
mountain biking, love.
Yeah. Yes.
People
But
that
what I
like
wanted
mountain biking, go ahead and just turn this off. You know what? It's not for you.
You're out. Yeah.
This is a love
for
podcast.
love. This is a love podcast. Absolutely. But what I wanted to say was there have been so many people in and out of our lives in the mountain biking community that have helped us get there. And, you know, we're doing big drops like Covenant, but we didn't start with Big Covenant, you know? I don't know why I just called it Big Covenant.
Big Covenant.
As if there was a small Covenant. No, you know, the big Covenant drop at Mountain Creek. And, you know, maybe you're not at that level yet, but we didn't just happen to be on that. You know, we started at a very small drop. I remember our first big drop, quote unquote, big drop, was Dane's Run's drop. And this was like, 3 years ago. And it was our buddy Chris Cruz.
Oh,
who
it was way more
was
than that.
like,
it was
yeah,
way,
it might have been.
It was way further away than that. Yeah.
It might have been, but to us, that 2.5, 3 foot drop was massive. And Chris, I remember Chris was like, you guys can do this. He's like, I know you guys, I've seen you guys, and you guys can do it. It was his belief in us, as well as our skills and our intuition, that got us over that drop. And that started, well, at least for me, that started everything. Once I did that drop, that started opening up other things. And then, and now look at us. It's just been such a great ride.
You know what Chris did with that comment, and you know what that did, and just as I'm listening to you tell the story, is it changed our belief system. We had a belief system that we couldn't do those sorts of things. And Chris was like, I've seen you guys ride. You guys can totally do that. And it was like, and then we did it. And we were like, oh, wait, what else did we have wrong? Because we didn't think we could do anything. Like we just thought we could just cross country this mountain, and which was great. And we loved that. But like all of a sudden it was like, wait, we're not who we thought we were. We're much more. And it's not until years and years later that we're like, wait, we're actually unlimited and anything is possible. And so like, you know, we're not good at jumping. We're going to get good at jumping. We're not good at skinnies. We're going to get good at skinnies. We're not good at tech and high consequence tech. We're going to get good at that. And like, so like we've had these moments before where we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this summer. I can't believe what we've unlocked. We've had those summers in tech, and now we're having it in jumping. And it's just mountain biking just keeps on giving. You know, when we talk about progression, there's always something harder. There's always something bigger. There's always something more challenging, and there's always something that's pushing your limits. And that's if mountain biking, that's just really fun. It's just really fun. There's always another trail, right? That's going to be really challenging, or when you're able to use all the skills that you've developed. Right? All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like when I went down that Gold Canyon double black for the first time, blind. I didn't know what I was getting into. Yeah. And I was just like, well, no, the skill, I have the skill to do this. I'm just going to keep riding this and enjoy it instead of panicking and getting hurt. So that's also a really cool feeling when you're on a trail and you're like, yeah, I got this. And then you're flowing.
Yeah, man.
Ooh. We had a comment a few weeks ago from Brian on a Bike, or B&E MTB. And anyone that's listening knows Brian, and he rides for Reeb, and he's an awesome rider. And I just thought this was really, really interesting, and maybe that's because I'm a bike nerd. But this is on the hot take: has a new mountain bike ever increased your confidence and skills on the trail? Oh, yeah. And so Brian wrote, getting comfortable in turns is a game changer. That's where I think some of the modern Geo is helpful, but could be headed into an extreme a bit. And then here's what I think is really, really cool, because this guy knows bikes and this guy knows how to ride. And he wrote, personally, 65-degree head tube angle is the quote-unquote perfect setup for tech, downhill, confidence, and cornering. And then he says the more slack these bikes are getting definitely inspires confidence in chunky downhill situations, but I feel that you start losing confidence in cornering and other aspects of riding. You need to shift your body position much more forward to corner with a slack head tube. And with increased reach of modern Geo, it's a lot easier to not do that and to wash out the front end, in my opinion. So that's just Brian's opinion. We've been talking so much about getting a downhill bike for Bike Park Day. And I know a lot of us are moving to bigger bikes. We're moving to bigger trail bikes. We're moving, and not everybody, but a lot of people are moving to bigger trail bikes. You're seeing a lot more enduro bikes or trail bikes that are like kind of in the enduro category. And I ride an Evo, which I have set up at 63.5 head angle. And I could adjust that like in 0.5s all the way up to 65.5. So maybe I play around with that a little bit. I want to get your take on that. And then my Firebird is set up at 64.6, really close to Brian's magical number 65. And that can go down to 64 if I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Anyways, your thoughts. What is your IBIS at? And then your thoughts on the 65, head angle and lower. And I hadn't really thought too much about how it affects the riding cornering wise and getting further back on the bike.
Yeah, the IBIS is pretty old. I would imagine it's like 68, 67, somewhere in that range. It was just on the cusp of when, that's just when the cusp of like when bikes were starting to change, that 2018 year. It's hard for me to comment on this because I haven't ridden a bike that was 63 degrees, but I did ride that e-bike was set up at 65. I really enjoyed that.
I set that up at 63. That was 63 and a half. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I really enjoyed that on the jumps. Like I really thoroughly enjoyed that. I didn't get to ride it anywhere else, In fact, I struggled on the tech, and I thought that was due to the motor and, how it was putting out power. I will say that one of the things that I do love about my Mojo is how snappy and quick it is. And, you could also attribute that to being twitchy. I like that about my bikes. That's why I like smaller wheels as well. I like the ability to kind of move my bike around and get around in tight spaces. And if Brian is saying that you lose a little bit of that, I probably would be hesitant to go that deep. To me, 65 degrees does sound like a good sweet spot for me where I'm getting, I think so. The most, although I got to tell you, your bike being able to switch, between the high and low, that's kind of cool too. So
most new bikes do have a flip chip, do have the ability to switch. The Evo has an abundance of switching options.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a little unusual, but most bikes have at least a flip chip. You're at least able to go a half a degree.
Yeah. What was interesting, Danny, is when we were at the Phoenixville Bike Park, which is one of the rides that we're going to talk about, we took the BMXs out, and those things are set at like 70, I don't know what, 74 or something. The head, it's practically straight up and down. The head tube, you can see my BMX in the background there. It's pretty steep. And I immediately noticed that. So you have the smaller wheel, but then it's also very twitchy. I don't know. I immediately felt a difference. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was a massive difference. There's so much difference with that. It's almost a different sport. It's like road riding versus mountain biking. Like it
is a different sport. Yes, it is.
It's almost a different sport. Yeah. The BMX and it's just so interesting. I know that people know this, as far as like jumping dirt jumps and BMX style jumps with it. And you want the steep head tube angle. Dirt jumpers and BMX bikes have that steepness. But high-speed mountain bike jumps, it seems like slacker gives you more stability, right? You get more stability with the longer, slacker bike. So when you're doing the high-speed jumps in the air, it's kind of nice to have a little bit slacker, I would guess.
Well, it's also nice in tech, in tech as in like chunky terrain. You want a longer bike. Where it suffers is like Brian's saying, when you start to get into the tight turns where you have to physically move that bike around, to get into tight spots. That's where the bikes, maybe, is from what Brian is saying. Again, I haven't tried it in those situations. I would love to. We don't know. But I tell you what, I take his advice.
Yeah, well, I totally, Brian knows bikes for sure. So I just thought that was a really interesting comment, that 65 degree, I kind of agree. I kind of agree that seems like a really nice sweet spot. My bikes are both a little bit slacker than that. Maybe I'll mess around with the Evo. I'm really enjoying it where it is. I don't know that getting the extra clearance, but I do get off the back of that bike a lot. I talk about staying centered all the time because I'm always falling off the back of that bike. But then it's not changing the reach.
No. If it did, you're talking not even a millimeter.
It's just changing the head tube angle. So, and should we explain what we mean by head tube angle for anyone that's new to mountain biking?
Yeah, we can, because I was actually thinking about changing the head tube angle on my Mojo using a head tube angle adjustment ring. Yeah, which I currently have on my single speed. My single speed was set up at 69 degrees, and I put this 2 degree head angle shifter, which essentially you have two rings, one at the top where your handlebars are and one at the bottom where your fork comes out, and the ovals. So that
nobody needs the details. This is
terrible. I don't even know how to explain this. Good. Yeah.
No,
well,
you don't need to explain.
It gives you 2 more degrees. It gives you 2 more degrees. That's all you need to know. That's it.
Segment over.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so I'm thinking about doing that with the Mojo.
I'm going to need another cup of caffeinated coffee. He's getting into the details on the. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Double strength. Thank you. 7:00 at night. I'm going to need a cup of coffee to get through this segment.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, by head tube angle, what we're talking really about is and steep and slackness. And I think we've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but the slacker it gets, the further the wheel gets away from the frame, and the steeper it gets, the closer the wheel gets to the frame. So when we say 65 degrees, then modern geometry, you're really looking at modern geometry starting in 2018, 2019. If you're buying a used bike, I would go past 2018. And 2019, 2020 starting to get into the sweet spot.
Oh, yeah.
And so then they started to get a little bit slacker and started to get closer to 66, 65 degrees. And then the seat tube got steeper, so you could still pedal it just as well. So you really got the best of both worlds. And so bikes are just awesome right now. Mountain bike, we live in such a awesome time for mountain bikes. So Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail and in the YouTube comments, what do you recommend for what kind of riding do you like to do, and what kind of bike do you have? What head tube angle do you have? If you have adjustable, do you like to ride it steep? Do you like to ride it slack? So and have you I'm really curious, have people experimented with this? Have they found a favorite, especially if you have something like an Evo or if you have a flip chip? Have you found a favorite head tube angle? What have you noticed in tech or in jumping? And so let's get that conversation going, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there on what exactly we want, how much travel we want, and then what angle head tube we want, and how much we can pedal these bikes. There's so many bikes out there right now. So Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail in the YouTube comments, head tube angles, and what you prefer. What do you think, Sage? That's a good question, right?
Absolutely.
Give some good feedback there. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's the part of the podcast where we thank everybody for rating and subscribing. So if you are listening on your podcast player and there's a rating system, please give us 5 stars. If you can auto download, please do that, because that's how the podcast players know that you're listening, is when you download. And if you're listening on YouTube, then certainly you want to give us a like, and you also want to subscribe. So we appreciate everybody doing that. And if you're on Apple and you want to leave us a review, a 5-star review, you can actually go in and leave a review. And so when we get some good reviews, we like to read them. This one is from AZ1578. Nice and easy. I didn't mess that one up. The title is Fun and Inspiring. And it says, Dan and Sage. No, not the country music duo Dan and Shay. Do you know Dan and Shay?
I don't know Dan and Shay. I'm going to have to listen to that.
Yeah, I had never heard of it either. I looked them up. Anyway, so the review says, Dan and Sage killed on this pod. They're so fun to listen to. I recently did a long road trip and listened to past podcasts the entire drive. Time flies by as I'm listening. I can feel their positive energy in Stoke coming through loud and clear. Their chemistry is spot on, and they truly inspire me to get better on each ride. I recently cleared some doubles at the bottom of a trail that had been daunting. I largely attribute that success to changing my mindset as a result of listening to this podcast.
Yo.
Booyaka Tasha.
Yo, you know what? I wonder if that's Jeff Jackson. He is in Arizona. Yeah.
Yes, I think it is Jeff Jackson. I think it is also. Last week we guessed that the review was Shelley. This week we're guessing that it's Jeff Jackson. So
Yeah. Well, he had commented that there were 2 doubles on Boulder Dash. Yes.
No, it wasn't Boulder Dash. It was Big Sister. It was
just kidding.
One of the flow
Big
trails.
Sister. Yes, of course. Well, if it was you, Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Whoever left it is. Yes, whoever Arizona 1578. I thought it was Jeff Jackson also. But that's an awesome review, and we really appreciate that. And man, just touched on everything that we're stoked to be doing is talking bikes and mindset and positivity and helping everybody become better riders. I mean, not just enjoy listening to the pod, not just have fun for the hour you're listening to the podcast, but take something away from it and on your next ride. working on something, or 3 rides later, like, oh, I just cleared these doubles that I didn't think I could ever get. I just got the Escalade drop that I've ridden by 100 times.
Yes.
And these guys like had a different mindset than I've been using. Because, it's funny because since we've been doing the podcast, we've been very much about the mindset, and we had the mountain bike gratitudes, and we talk about that. And but this is still pretty new for us also. Changing our belief system and having gratitude and reaching for a better thought and anything's possible, and all of this language that we're using, it's actually pretty new for us also. We're just super stoked on it, and this is how we live our lives now. This is what we talk about all the time when we have conversations like about off the bike, which usually leads quickly to conversations on the bike again. But using this stuff on the bike is just like mind-blowingly cool, like it's just the progression is awesome. It's so fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Saturday, you, Stick, and I went to Phoenixville Bike Park, and it always feels like, oh, we're just gonna go. It's there's pretty much one line. Once we get warmed up, we ride the expert line, which is like 5 features, and it's always like, it's an easy day, right? We're just kind of running this line over and over. And then, we did like 10 miles of this at this little park of just like running laps over and over and over and over. And it's so much fun. We got way more tired than we expected. But what were your impressions at Phoenixville Bike Park on Saturday?
Man, my impressions are, I really hope that townships get behind this, because every time we go there, we always run into kids and young adults. And I got to tell you, I mean, you hear all these horror stories about kids being on their phones and on the video games and, just staying in their rooms. Hey, they're out here. They're out here and they're running these tracks. It's 100% awesome. I love seeing it. And this time was no different. We ran into our buddy Eric, who had 2 little ones of his own, Lucas and Mia, and they were out there sessioning these jumps. It was amazing.
7 and 9. Really little. They had already been to Mountain Creek. They had already been to Blue Mountain. Lucas was like almost clearing the intermediate jump at 9. And Mia standing up strong, like really good form and having a blast. Just really, really cool. Really cool. Very good mountain bike daddying there. That was really, really cool. Really very, 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 very cool little kids. And Eric was a really cool guy, really cool dad, obviously.
Yeah, good
and
rider.
Pretty good jumper. Yeah, good rider. Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of good jumpers, Danny, you were unlocking some new moves there too, man. You were putting a little bit of steez in those jumps.
Yeah, I was feeling the bar turn come alive a lot more. And it's just repetition and getting to that place where I'm not thinking about the jump. So I'm not nervous. I'm not worrying about staying centered. I'm not worried about spotting the landing. It just starts to become routine.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you go back, like really just 5 or 6 pods, I don't even know if it's that many. I definitely make the comment of like, I don't really care if I do any tricks. I just want to clear these jumps with comfort. Like, I'm not worried about doing tricks or style. Like all I want to do is clear these jumps with comfort and ease. And that's not the way it works. Like the way it works is that you start to clear them with comfort and then you want more. I mean, it's progression. It's what we're talking about, So now like I've updated what I want. I don't want to just clear the jumps. Now I want to clear them and make shapes. And is that a better way to jump? And is that more comfortable? And then it also looks cool and it's fun. So it's just really funny. As we were riding that day, I was like, I definitely said on the podcast that I didn't care about style, that I only wanted to clear the jumps. That's all I wanted to do. And here we are. So what were you feeling at Phoenixville? You looked great.
I was feeling it. I had to take several breaks, and I knew when I was feeling it when I started making silly mistakes. Just things that you normally don't do. And I said, you know what? There's something off here. I took about a 15, 20-minute break. And what I noticed was when I came back, brain, body felt great. And once again, was hitting this thing. The other thing that I wanted to point out about that ride was the fact that you had brought both your DJ, your dirt jumper, and your BMX. And I didn't take too many shots on the dirt jumper. I went right to the BMX, and my goodness, I just kept telling myself, like, okay, compress and then scoop, as in like scoop the bike up underneath you, because we're also not clipped. You know, we're also not clipped. So if you're not scooping that bike up underneath you, our feet might be coming off the pedals because you and I are so used to riding clips. And so
that's a very good point. Yes.
Yes. And so I had to verbally tell that to myself. And traditionally, I don't like to think about things, but it just felt natural. So I would just say that to myself at the beginning of the line and then attack this line. And where I did get timid was on jump, the whale tail and jump number 5. And I paid for it. It was a really harsh landing. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, it's much better to commit to something than to kind of half butt, you know, the half butt. I don't want to go half butt. I want to go full butt.
Yeah. I love when you try to avoid certain words and you end up like in these really weird linguistic gymnastic places, blowing toot up your butt and half butting.
It was a half cheek. It was a half cheek effort. I'm going full cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's such an interesting point. I mean, how many times have we been on some sort of difficult feature where you're like, and you're walking your bike and it would have been, well, what actually would have been a lot easier to just ride this thing. And I did not. So I saw you sending it, especially off the drop and then the first wooden jump, the wooden kicker. And then you can kind of like roll right out of that. You don't have to keep going. You could, and you can kind of like spin right out of that. And then you haven't gone up very far either. So you don't have to climb up the whole line. And so I saw you doing that over and over, and you looked really good. And so then I was like, well, let me give it a shot. And I went and I did the jump on the middle a little bit. I did that a couple times. But I went off the jump and I was just doing my regular technique and trying to stay centered. And it was arcing and landing nicely until Eric was like, you should pull the handlebars up further to your hips. And then I like totally dead sailored, and this bike has it has a back brake, but it does not want to slow down. No, it is very unforgiving. Like, you either get the jump right or there's a good chance of going down. And I rode that out and I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep baby steps. I'm not like working on anything on this thing yet. But doing the drop and clearing that first jump was really cool and really surprising.
I kind of want to get into our next ride because we took that confidence from the Phoenixville bike park right to Mount Penn. And I know the listeners might be tired of listening to the Skyline, but we moved up to the next section of Skyline. And this section has at least 2 or 3 pretty big step downs. And my goodness, man, they were so much fun. Danny, tell us about this.
Yeah. So we've been riding the big 5 jumps in the middle, the lower middle, and then last week we did the upper middle. I'm getting the middles mixed up again, but this is the top. That's right. Middle. Okay, the top middle. There's 3 middles.
No, we just didn't do the full upper middle.
Oh, the full upper middle. We did half of upper middle.
Yeah. Oh gosh, here we go.
Oh God, this was bad enough last week. Listeners are like, I thought we already did this bit, and I thought we already agreed that it wasn't a good bit. You guys told us that this was a bad bit, and you're doing it again.
And we're doing it again.
You have a whole week to prepare. Then you can figure out what are we calling these trails. And we just came back with this same exact. My apologies, everyone, for making you listen to this again. Okay. Anyways, there's more to it. And so we parked right near the jumps. We were pretty tired from Phoenixville Bike Park the day before. And so we parked right near the jumps. Right. So we go and we warm up on the 5 and the 5 big jumps, and we start to feel better. And then we're starting to do the lower middle that we did last week, and we're starting to really have fun. And then it's time to go and start looking at these step downs. And while we were there was other guys that were riding the trails, and that was Rob and Brandon. Yes. And Rob had a downhill bike and Brandon had an enduro. They had just kind of been swapping bikes, but they were both really good jumpers. And Rob really was very confident on Skyline. And so he started to tell us, answer all of our questions about the step downs. How fast do you need to go? Where do you launch off of? What about this? And what about this? And he gave us some great advice.
That's right.
So he's talking, and we're at the top of the trail, and you're getting ready, and I hear your mountain bike Lamaze, your heavy breathing happening. That was one of the comments. Someone commented when we talked about your breathing before doing big features that you And someone said mountain bike Lamaze, which I thought was hilarious. So, so you're getting ready to give birth to progression, to mountain bike progression, you know? Yeah. So like, you know, we didn't see anyone do it. You're just getting ready to send it, and send it. You did. And Stick and I are just like at the top of the trail looking down. It looked like you did really well. And we're just like listening. And you just appear from view, and we're just listening, and we just hear a woohoo. Oh, all right. He's alive. So what was it like hitting those big step downs? Because they are really big. We didn't get any off the camera shots of those, so we only had the POV, but those first 3 step downs, there's 2 like in succession that are kind of rhythm, and then into a berm, and then there's a really big one. There's 4 of them in total, I think.
That's right.
And they're really big. You're like, we're in tiny little gears and pedaling, and yeah, but gosh, they send nicely. What was your feeling the first time, and then as we started to session it?
Well, let me give a quick frame of reference in case people are familiar with Mount Penn. The section that we're talking about is right after Nico's drop. So there's actually a parking space where it's not a parking lot, but it's a place where you could pull over. There's a nice view. You can literally come in to the trail right at that drop. So you don't have to do the drop. You can session this line. And one of the things that you and I were worried about was, will we have enough speed if we don't do the Nico's drop? And the answer to that question is yes. How did I go about approaching it? Yeah, plenty. How I went about it with the same mindset that I had with the BMX. That's just to kind of relate these 2 stories together. I thought to myself, if you're going to do these step downs, you better send it. Like, don't half cheek this, like go full butt. And that's what I did, because in our pre-ride, Danny, I
full
remember
ass
going,
isn't a thing.
No, right.
You should go full butt.
Yeah, full butt.
You can say half ass, but you can't say full ass.
No. It wasn't one cheek. It was both cheeks. Both cheeks into this thing. But yeah, what I noticed on that pre-ride, Danny, was like how jarring those step downs were when you didn't send them. You know, because it almost feels like unrhythmic, if that makes sense. Like the doubles and the step downs, they have a rhythm to them. You know, if you catch it, they're one after each other. And when you don't hit them, you're like, and it's like, oh, it's the worst feeling in the world. So I said to myself,
it's the worst case, because I think the step down is like half jump, half drop, you know, but you're losing altitude. You're going really fast because you're jumping and falling. And so if you case that, then it's even harder. If your back tire slams on that, it's even harder. And if your front tire hits it, dunzos. So these aren't tabletops. These are doubles that are designed. You can just roll it. You could totally pump it, which is what we've always done in the past. We never sent these before. But they're clearly designed that if you send it, you will land it perfectly into the next one.
Yeah, my advice is, if you're going to send it, send it. If you're not going to send it, then pump it. Don't do in between. And that was my mindset, was like, okay, Rob was kind enough to give us the line on the first 2, because you can go right to left or left to right. And he was giving us the coaching on, here's how you hit this to get into the next one. And I was like, okay, all right. And that was it, man. I just went for it.
Options also on that
line
my gosh, that we hadn't done. Like, you can send it like a hip into, it's just such an awesome trail. Yeah,
it really is.
But
it really is.
That's really interesting that you had the confidence to say, I'm going to go really, really fast on this, not knowing the speed, really just going trail speed. Like, but we're not coming off the drop. So like pedaling into it and sending it. That takes. So after you went, I mean, that takes a lot of cojones. It really does. It takes a lot of courage and confidence, and to see your jumping, like just how far it's progressed. It's incredible that you had the confidence to be like, I will do this first. I was intimidated. I really was, looking at these,
me too.
At how far these were.
Yeah. I can't wait to put that whole line together. It's going to be amazing. You know, it really is. It was exhausting. I will say that.
Yes. We were pedaling to the top. We finally understand, after we were such XC bros, and we really were. Like, if you could be an XC bro, we were XC bros. Like, we were like really proud of how strong we were and how much pedaling we did, and earn your turns. And we never understood shuttling, you know, like we'll climb to the top and then go downhill. And now, like after the summer of jumping, I'm just like, yeah, if somebody wanted to drive me to the top every time, that would be awesome.
That'd be cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Or an e-bike, you know what I mean? Like you get like 2, 3, 4 times the amount of jumps in, and the progression is just, that's what we want the e-bikes for. Is we just for the progression, not for easy rides, but for like to just session these sorts of jumps. I mean, it's so much fun, and the more you get to do it, the better you get. Yeah, it's really a great sport, and the sharing of the Stoke is so awesome. Stick was with us as well. Stick has not been, so at Phoenixville Bike Park, Stick has like totally unlocked his jumping and starting to add in shapes and stees, and he's really confident and he's awesome. And but Mount Penn, the Skyline jumps, those are a different animal. Those are bike park style jumps, which he doesn't have as much experience. And so he was kind of stuck on number 3, not getting it. Totally, the skills are totally in there. Stick's such a good jumper. So we just kept coaching him, like, dude, like you have it. Whenever you're ready to not pull the brake, you have it. You totally have it. And so he had that moment where he went for it and he cleared it. And the Stoke was crazy high afterwards. We were all there might have actually been some clapping. There was definitely definitely a lot of hugging, and we were really, really stoked for him. So we're all in different places, and progression isn't always linear. Sometimes you go up and then you level up a little bit. Maybe you go down a little bit, but stay positive. I've done this before. I can do it again. And you get that repetition, you get that comfort, you get that confidence, and everything starts flowing on the bike, and it's beautiful. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Why do you think this culture exists in this sport? And I'm not calling it a hobby. I'm calling it a sport. Why does this culture exist in mountain biking?
Yeah. Is it the mere act of riding bikes on dirt? Is it the kind of person that, or does riding bikes on dirt give you a certain level of stoke? Is it the kind of person that wants to ride bikes on dirt? Is it just the sharing of the stoke? But I don't feel like this is the kind of community that you have in a lot of other sports, and certainly not in other cycling sports. So you don't get this, we're not out to belittle roadies, and if you are also a road rider, that's cool. But if you're also a road rider, you also know that like mountain bikers are much cooler than road riders. Hot take. Mountain bikers are cooler than roadies. There you go. Yeah. 15-second hot take, our shortest one yet.
Yeah, right. It does seem like there is a more laxed attitude in general about mountain biking. And I think that kind of fits into that culture and ethos. And again, excluding racing, right? Because racing brings a whole nother element of competition. I think competition in general brings out a different kind of personality. But if you're not in a race, and you're out for a ride, I mean, I've rarely run into a mountain biker and been like, oh boy, I hope I don't see that person on the trail ever again. It's usually like, yo, what's your name? Let me hook up with you on Instagram. Like, you're an awesome dude. And they're usually like, yeah, you're pretty awesome too. And it's like, what a family. Like it does feel like a family, doesn't it?
Yeah, we talked about that when we did the Strava and the mountain bike apps, that the community that you get. I'm wondering if it's because it is a slower sport that, you are running into people on the trail. You'll ride behind people on the trail, and you can talk when you're riding. When you're mountain biking, like if you're riding behind someone, a lot of times you can talk and have a conversation with the person in front of you or behind you. So we might be riding with someone's friend who we don't know, and we're getting to know them while we're doing the activity. And then there's also a lot of stopping and looking at things at cool places where, someone else can be like, oh, are you interested in learning how to do this? Because I know how to do this. I can show you. So there's that's kind of built in. And then the people that like to do those sorts of things also like to be able to share it.
Danny, you just brought up a really good point that I hadn't thought about until just now. And I think this is what separates us from road biking and frankly, any of the other cycling disciplines. And that is fitness plays less of I don't know how to say this, but like skill can be achieved without as much fitness. For instance, when you're a road cyclist.
limiting factor. Fitness is not as much of a limiting factor.
That's right. I mean, you do need to be fit, but you can have less fitness and still be able to enjoy jumps, still be able to enjoy drops, still be able to enjoy tech. Whereas on a road bike, you probably need to be pretty fit. I mean, can you do a casual road ride? Yes, of course. But we're talking about like what brings community together, what brings Stoke together. When you're clearing a jump, when you're clearing a drop, like that's a high five, fist bump, chest bump, whatever you're doing moment. Those are really high energy vibe moments, and
you're right. You're right.
You can share that.
These are high vibe accomplishments. Like the fun of mountain biking is like when you do when you progress, or when you do something like a big jump or a big drop or a really difficult tech line, the adrenaline and the fun is so high that anyone that's doing that is having a good time, and it's a high vibe kind of sport. And to your point about the fitness, you don't even really, if in today's day and age, you don't even, if you could shuttle, you could bike park, or you can e-bike, and you don't even need to be fit. Like you can go out and we love being fit. And I think that's a really cool part of mountain biking. I mean, I love the fitness aspect of it, but it's also really cool that you could be coming back from an injury, or you could be taking a day off, or you could just want to be out there sessioning, or you could just not be a fit person but love mountain biking anyway and still go out and do all these really, really fun things. If you're road riding, and this wasn't meant to be road riding versus mountain biking.
No, and it's not.
Okay, then I won't say it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, in other disciplines, you have the same issue, like BMX. Like if you get into the actual like BMX races, you have to be really fit to be able to clear and be effective in those races. First of all, I mean, you have to have a tremendous amount of skill and confidence, because those BMX races are insane. They're absolutely insane. But again, fitness plays a big role in that. And to your point about you don't want this to be about roadies and blah, blah, blah. We're not saying that road rides aren't fun. Like I know you don't road ride, but I do.
I'm saying.
Yeah. But I have done road riding, and I've rode with groups, and they're a lot of fun, but it's a different kind of fun, and it is more fitness oriented, And I just think that plays a huge role. I'm trying to think of all the other disciplines of mountain biking, like enduro and downhill. You still see like a big vibe of positivity. Like when you see a road race end, or you don't see like it's not the same feeling. When you watch a downhill race and the downhill race is over, everybody, the crowd, the other riders, they're all jumping and hugging each other. Like it's just so much like positive vibe going on here.
Yeah. If you're a mountain biker, if you're listening to this, you're either a mountain biker or you're getting into mountain biking. If you're just getting into mountain biking, you're going to learn very quickly that when you meet people in the trails, they're really friendly. They're really friendly. What about this aspect of it? If you have a mechanical, you're by yourself, or maybe you're even with a friend, and you have a mechanical on the trail, I would say 85% of mountain bikers are going to ask if you need anything or if you need any help, and would legitimately give you a tube or a tire plug, or try to help you if they know how to fix bikes. You know what I mean? Like we've had that happen so many times, and we've helped people. And I'd have no problem giving someone a tube if they don't have one, and just going and buy another one at the store, because you're just kind of paying it forward. We've all been there. So there's that sense of community with the mechanical and mountain biking. Right now, the bikes are awesome. But when we first started doing this sport, if you got through a 4-person ride without someone having a mechanical, that was a good day. And things were breaking all the time. Yeah. And tires were going flat all the time. It was just constant. So anyone that's been mountain biking that's, for longer, for the past 15, 20 years, I would say like it's only like the past 5-6 years that I feel like the bikes have been super reliable. I mean, that was one of the reasons that we were riding single speeds, because they just didn't have as many parts to break. Things were just breaking down all the time. But that's part of mountain biking, is getting these trail side issues and people helping. And we all know what that feels like.
This just popped in my head again. How much does speed play a role in that willingness to help? And just think about everything else in your life. When you see a car pulled off on the side of the highway, or if you're out on, a fast run, the faster you're going, the faster you're going, are you less willing to stop? And as a mountain biker, our average speeds, for a cross country ride could be closer to like that 7 to 14 mile an hour. That's a lot slower than on a road bike when you're going, 25, 30 miles an hour.
It's so true.
So I wonder, if you're like going 7 miles an hour on a flat and you see someone, it's a lot easier to stop that and say, hey, can I help you out? Do you want a hand pumping your tire? You need a tube. I don't know, psychologically.
It's almost awkward to not say something. Like you're going by them so slowly really and they're looking at you like, thanks a lot for offering
you're going to
help.
ride by? You're going to ride by?
Yeah. I totally know what you look like. You went by me so slowly that I know exactly what you look like, and I am never forgetting you.
I know that face.
You're a jerk. I remember. Yes. No, that's a great point because I've driven by people where like I've seen someone pulled over on the side of the road and I've driven by and then like I spend like the next like 30 seconds like, oh, I should have stopped. Yeah, I think I stopped. And I'm going like 70 miles per hour and it's like, I'm already like a mile past them. Like, I'm sure someone else will help them. See ya, sucker. No, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. But I think the main thing, and you nailed this. I think the main thing is that mountain biking is a high stoke sport. Yeah. I think it's a high vibe. Definitely high stoke, but I think it's a high vibe sport. I think that it's just so much fun. And then, and when you're in a good vibe spot, you want other people to be in a high vibe place, right? You don't want to be hanging out with low vibe people. So you want other people to succeed and also be stoked and also be excited. Excitement breeds excitement. High vibe brings more high vibe, which only goes higher and higher and just more and more fun. More and more unlimited, more and more anything is possible. We're sitting here talking this entire podcast like we can't believe what we're doing. Anything is possible. Yeah. Listener, like what Ride and Laugh One at Gmail, YouTube comments. What have you unlocked this summer? What do you want to unlock? It's totally possible. You totally got this. The skills are in there, and if they're not, just keep practicing.
Yeah, I love that. We often talk about how mountain biking can relate to life, and how there are so many synchronicities between, what we do and how we live. And for me, mountain biking and the community, it's all of that. It's all of those things that we talk about. It's all the things that you want to embody. If you are just getting into mountain biking, don't be afraid to stop to talk to anyone. I honestly, like, I cannot remember the last time where I've had a bad experience, and on the other hand, I've remembered so many instances where someone's either helped me out because I was broken down, or I wanted, like Robbie, who he was just there and he was like, yo, here's the line. He walked down the trail. I mean, it's not like, it's not flat. Like he had to climb back up, to go back to his bike. He walked the trail. He
interrupted his ride to show us the lines.
Yeah. And like, he didn't have to do that, but he did, and there's so many people like that you're going to meet if you're just getting started in mountain biking. There's so many people that you're going to meet just like that. And don't be afraid to ask questions. This is a great community. It's a great community. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, the day before, were coaching little 9-year-old Lucas, and we were all rooting for him to get over that jump, which he came really, really close.
Oh, he's so
came
close.
Really close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's totally going to get it. I mean, they're both going to be just like awesome shredders. But so you pay it forward, and it's just so much gratitude for our sport and everybody that has found it and is enjoying it, and the progression and the synchronicities between mountain biking and life. And we have this thing that on a weekend or on a weekday or on the morning before work or after work in the evening, you can get out on our bikes and just go and do something that's just really, really fun and can just put you in that flow state where you're trusting your skills, you're trusting your abundance, you're trusting that you're good at this, you're trusting that you're worthy of having fun, and you're trusting that moment, and you're in the moment. That's what the flow state is. You're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future. Mountain biking is intense enough that if you leave the moment, you might get hurt. It might all go wrong. You have to stay centered and focused. And I think that's another part of why mountain biking is so much fun, is because you have to be in the moment. And a lot of people struggle to be in the moment. And sometimes when we're struggling, we talk about this all the time. We're on the bike and we're thinking. We're struggling to be in the moment. We're thinking about something else.
Yeah.
And so we have mantras. I have mantras, or you have breathing exercises, but we have techniques that we've developed to get those thoughts out, to stop those thoughts for that moment. Because when we're centered and we're not thinking, that's when the magic really happens. Because now you're just in the moment, and you're flowing. You could be flowing through tech, you can be flowing through jumps, you could be flowing through life. But that's also and that when you're grounded and you're in the moment, that's really high vibe stuff. And so that's another reason that, because mountain biking is so challenging, it can be so challenging. Even an easy trail, if you go fast enough, it's challenging, right?
Yeah.
Then it depends where your skill level is. But it's challenging enough. Riding bikes on dirt is challenging enough, and rocks, it's challenging enough that you have to stay present.
I love it, man. I would love to know from our listeners, did we miss one? Is there another reason why mountain bikers and this culture is the way it is? Did we? I mean, I literally didn't write anything down. These things just came to my head as we were speaking, because we love the sport. But did we miss one? Is there one that Sage and Dan, I noticed this about mountain bikers. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what we missed, and let us know what you love about our community.
Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. Sage didn't prepare anything for the podcast. He just went off the top of his head, and
I go by instinct.
Look at the magic. I wrote a few things down, but the stuff that we just came up with while we were talking was actually much better than anything I wrote down. So, we have gratitude for our sport. We have gratitude for all the people that we meet on the trails. We have gratitude for sharing the Stoke. And let's get into our mountain bike gratitudes of the week. Sage, what you got?
I got to go with something that has helped me find this community and bring more people into this community. And that's the GoPro. And while it's the GoPro for me, this could be the DJI Action for you, or it could be the Ace Pro. These action cameras have popularized and made mountain biking accessible to more people. And I'm really grateful that this exists. You and I started mountain biking, and it was like the GoPro 1, 2, and 3, and 4. It was not even watchable. It was like these things have come so far. You don't need a gimbal anymore. You can capture life in an instant. Maybe you're not a mountain biker. Maybe you're a surfer or a runner or whatever. These action cameras allow you to capture these moments. And I look back on these videos that you and I do. I look back on these podcasts, and I fondly remember all these memories. So thank you to GoPro for allowing us to capture these moments, for allowing us to document our adventures, and allowing more people to get involved in our community.
Mountain bike YouTube is such a huge part of my life. The people that are wearing these action cameras and riding these places that I really, really want to ride, but also seeing what's possible. Yeah. Seeing, oh, wow, look at this. Look at the lines that these guys are taking. Or look at the jumps that this girl is taking. Look at the style that this person is throwing down on all these jumps. I mean, I'm on my trainer. I'm watching mountain bike YouTube, and I was telling you at breakfast the other day, and I'm looking at everyone's hips to see how they're jumping.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, this is an action camera. This is because of the action camera that this entire genre exists. It's awesome. And yeah, I totally agree. I think mountain bike YouTube is really cool. We could do several podcasts on that. I think your Trail Sage channel is awesome. It's documented a whole bunch of our Danny. Rides. And the action camera is a really interesting thing. And where they have come from, yeah, they're awesome now. They really are. Just like the bikes have evolved, the cameras have also evolved, and now you can just wear it. Yeah, you used to have to wear like a whole setup, but we'll get into that some other time.
You had mentioned like the destinations. The other thing is the YouTube tutorials. Like you didn't I came up in a production. I came up in a production background. To do a video shoot like that, like we're going to do a tutorial on jumps, you'd have to bring a cameraman, a lighting guy, a sound guy, a boom guy, just this whole production crew. You can now shoot a tutorial on these little tiny GoPros by yourself or one other person. It's unbelievable. It's made this all that much more accessible, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there that these little tiny cameras have unlocked, and it's really cool. And that's just in our little mountain bike world. So I'm sure there's a zillion other things you could do with them, but I don't really care. We mountain bike. That's what we like to do. That's right. Them, so yes.
Danny, how about you? What about your gratitude?
Well, my gratitude, and I know that we've already mentioned this before, but I just got to go back to Dirtsculpt, who built the Skyline Trail, and BAMBA, which is the organization that is in charge of getting the funding to build that trail and to maintain that trail, Berks Area Mountain Bike Association. That Skyline Trail is a top-notch bike park worthy downhill trail. It has so many cool features, from step downs to shark fins to bike park size jumps to huge berms to drops. I mean, it's just like, the more I ride it, the more I'm impressed by that trail. It's better than some bike parks, and it's here in Reading at Mount Penn. It's open for anybody. It's so well built. It's everything's trail speed. Everything rides really well. It drains fantastic. So Dirtsculpt is the company that made it, and BAMBA is the organization that maintains it. It's allowed so much progression for us this summer. So absolute gratitude to Dirtsculpt and BAMBA for getting that trail built and maintained.
Yo, shout out to both of those organizations, BAMBA and Dirtsculpt. I mean, fantastic stuff. So yeah, I have nothing to add to that. That you're absolutely right. I'm absolutely grateful for that trail. We spend the last month, maybe 2 months on just Skyline. You know, like,
I know.
In the rain,
anything, they could have told us what the middle parts were called. I mean, that's my only criticism, is that
at the very least,
they just left this big giant middle, and they didn't delineate where the middle starts, to begin the lower middle and the upper middle. I mean, there's that's just for riders to figure out. It's complicated stuff. Listeners are like, wow, we're going back into the middle bit. This is unbelievable. These guys, they said that the first time they said it was bad, the second time they teased themselves, and now they're doing it again. Yeah. You know what? First ride left mountain bike shirt, it's going to be the middle. Middle, upper middle, ride left. You can buy 3 t-shirts. You can buy upper middle, lower middle, middle, or lower middle. There's 4 t-shirts available, all riding left. You pick your middle.
Yeah. Ay. All right.
Oh, you're an upper middle guy. Oh, interesting. I see. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. You know what? We'll do the t-shirt sizing in the same thing. It'll be medium.
Oh, yeah.
Big medium and little medium.
medium, upper medium, lower medium. I think I'm a lower large. I'm confused with the lower large and the upper XL. I'm not sure. Everyone's gonna have shirts that are dumb and don't fit. I love it. Right. I love it.
Oh my!
Not only does this shirt doesn't make any sense, it fits horribly. Right, left.
It's right on brand. Yeah, right on brand.
You're gonna know, listeners, when you see them wearing shirts that are either too big or too small, and just say middle on them. You're like, oh, listener, how you doing? I love the pod. All right, tip of the week.
My tip of the week is relatable for what we had just talked about, and it's also one that I actually chopped off of the previous episode. So the listeners didn't even get to hear that because I edited it out because it was too long. Oh. But if you are going to a Skyline or a bike park, what I didn't get into was the last week's was about the Stance Dart. And what I lopped off was I actually carry that in a hip pack. So when I go to a downhill park, I'm not wearing a hydration pack. I pack the Stance Dart into a hip pack, but there are other things that I carry. And so if you have a mini pump, I'll put that in my hip pack, as well as a multi-tool. So that's my mountain bike tip. If you go to a bike park, I mean, you certainly don't need to bring anything, but I found that having a multi-tool, a dart, maybe you can get away without bringing a pump, but if you're quick enough to seal that hole quick enough, but Yeah, it's come in handy a few times, man. So you're not walking down that trail. That's a long walk down to the cars.
Yeah.
If I can find it online, I will leave a link to the one that I use. I'll leave it in the video description below. So be on the lookout for that if it's available. If it's not, then sorry.
Yes. Well, it's a great tip, and thank you very much for the mountain bike tip of the week. If you are still listening, you are definitely one of us. You are a mountain biker. You are awesome. We appreciate you. Gratitude. Please rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. Everybody have a great week of riding. Ride and last.
I'll see you, everyone.